Tin Soldier. There was once an old man. The old man had a tin spoon. He made 25 tin soldiers out of it. They were all brothers, born of the same old tin spoon. The soldiers had bright red and blue uniforms. The old man was very happy to see his 25 tin soldiers. The very first thing in the world that they heard was, "Tin soldiers." The old man gave them as a birthday gift to a little boy who happily clapped his hands as he saw the tin soldiers. A lot of kids were there to celebrate the little boy's birthday. All the soldiers looked exactly alike except one. He looked a little different. He had only one leg. While the old man was making the soldiers, he fell short of tin, so he could make only one leg to the last soldier. However, he was the remarkable one. There were other toys on the table, and one that no eye could miss was a marvelous castle of cardboard. It had little windows through which you could look right inside it. There was a pretty lady who stood in the open doorway of the castle. Though she was made of paper, she wore a dress. The pretty lady was a ballerina. She was also standing on one leg. The tin soldier couldn't see the second leg and thought she was just like him, with only one leg. That would be a wife for me, but she lives in a great castle. I have only a box with 24 roommates to share it. I still have to meet her, he thought. Then he laid down on the table behind a tobacco box, where he could admire the dainty little dancer who kept standing on one leg without ever losing her balance. When the evening came, the other tin soldiers were put away in their box and they slept. Only the tin soldier and the ballerina were on the ground. The ballerina was standing at the tip of her toes. The soldier couldn't even take his eyes off her for a minute. When it was midnight, then the clock struck 12. The lid of the tobacco box was suddenly opened, but there was no tobacco in it. A little black dwarf was there. "Tin soldier, don't ask for something that doesn't belong to you," said the dwarf. But the tin soldier didn't pay any attention to what the dwarf said. "Well, just wait until tomorrow," said the dwarf. The next morning, the children got up and they put the soldier on the window ledge. All of a sudden, the window flew open and the soldier fell down the street from the window. The housemaid and the little boy ran down to look for him. Soon, it began to rain heavily. As soon as the rain stopped, the two children found the one-legged tin soldier. Someone said, "Hey, look, a tin soldier." They made a boat out of paper, put the tin soldier in the middle of it, and left the tin soldier into the gutter. Two young rapscallions were running beside him and clapping their hands. How the waves splashed and how fast the water ran down the gutter. The boat sailed past streets and houses that the tin soldier had never seen. Then it was sucked into the storm drains, with the tin soldier clinging on inside it. "Where am I going?" the soldier wondered. "Ah, if only the little ballerina was with me. I would not care about the darkness." Suddenly, he saw a huge mouse under the gutter. "Do you have a passport?" asked the mouse. The soldier kept quiet and held his musket tighter. On rushed the boat, and the rat came right after it as he was calling behind him. "Stop him! Stop him!" He didn't pay the toll. He didn't show his passport as well. He shouted, but the stream ran stronger and stronger. The mouse could not catch him. The soldier could see daylight ahead where the gutter ended, but he also heard a roar that would frighten the bravest of us. Right at the end of that gutter plank, the water poured into the great canal. The paper boat plunged into the whirlpool. The boat spun around 3 times. It filled to the top and was bound to sink. The water was up to his neck. Then the water rushed over his head. He thought of the cute little dancer whom he would never see again. And now, the paper boat sank right through. And just at that moment, he was swallowed by an enormous fish. How dark it was inside of fish. Then the fish flopped and floundered in a most unaccountable way. Finally, it was perfectly still, and after a while, something struck through him like a flash of lightning. The tin soldier saw daylight again, and he heard a voice say, "The tin soldier!" The fish was caught, carried to market, bought, and brought to a kitchen where the cook cut him open with her big knife. She picked the soldier out of the fish and carried him off upstairs. Everyone wanted to see this remarkable traveler who had traveled in a fish's stomach, but the tin soldier took no pride in it. They put him on a table. The soldier was in a child's bedroom as before. He was back in the same room as before. He saw the same children, the same toys were on the table, and there was the same fine castle with the pretty little dancer. She still balanced on one leg, with the other raised high. That touched the soldier so deeply that he would have cried tin tears, but he kept himself. He looked at her, and she looked at him, and even a word was not said. Just as things were going so nicely for them, one of the little boys came to the room. The boy grabbed the tin soldier up and threw him into the stove. There was no reason for him to do that. It must have been the dwarf's fault in the tobacco box. The tin soldier stood there, well dressed in flames. He felt a terrible heat, but he didn't know whether it came from the flames or from his love. He'd lost his splendid colors, maybe from his hard journey, maybe from grief. Nobody can know. He looked at the little dancer, and she looked at him, and he felt himself melting. But still he stood up with his musket on his shoulder. Just as the soldier had started feeling the heat from the fire, fresh air rushed into the room, and the ballerina was blown into the fire with him. The tin soldier melted, all in a lump. The next morning, the maid took the ashes out of the stove and found a small tin heart in the ashes. But nothing was left from the pretty dancer, because it was burned as black as a coal.